Much of your work focuses on the history of media. Why do you believe that it's important for today's communication scholars to understand media from a historical perspective?
Yeah, I think that's a good question because it's something that people don't automatically perceive as being necessary or uh, relevant to today's world, but it actually is. And the thing is, with history, if you don't understand where you've been, it's really hard to understand where you are. And most of us are not going to be remembering very much about history before we were born, unless we study it, because obviously we weren't around for it. And so the idea is that if you have some confusion about the way the media operates now, for instance, you say, why is the media sensationalistic? Or you say, why is the media profit-driven? Or you say, why is the media try to separate, at least the news media, try to separate opinion from fact? Well, the answer is in history, and the answer is in the way it has developed today. And sometimes, if we're critical of the media, we think, it should not have developed this way. And so if you think that the media needs to be changed, you think there's a lot of problems with the media. One way to understand how that change might work is to understand how it developed the way it did. So I think that it's pretty much applicable to everybody today, even though it's history. I mean, it's old stuff.
You've especially researched press communications during World War I. Have you noticed any parallels in the wartime journalism of that time and the journalism in the current American occupation in the Middle East?
There was a difficulty in the past in American media to provide for the separation of people's opinions from what we call facts, which in media of the last century, meaning the 19th century, really didn't exist. I mean, the idea of facts, opinions being separate, nobody thought that that was necessary or even possible. But as the mass media developed, there perceived to be a need to have some, we hope, at least as close as we can get, objective or fact-based news. And so as commercial media developed, they said, we're going to try to separate the idea of opinions from the idea of facts or objectivity, and which was not an easy thing to do. But by, say, the 1920s or the 1930s, most reputable media had done this. And so we had a special place for opinions, and it was called the editorial page, and we had a special place for facts. And journalists were facts. That's what they cared about. They didn't care about opinions. And so that's kind of the way it developed. I think that the world of media, particularly since the internet, tends to be diffusing this kind of this wall between the facts and the opinions. And today, a lot of media really doesn't, maybe doesn't even care about separating facts and opinions anymore. We sort of say, what is news? Well, it could be somebody's opinion on a blog. It could be a New York Times. It could be one of the local newspapers. Is there a difference between fact and opinion? Well, I don't know. Fox News doesn't seem to think so, but then there's MSNBC. So it seems to me that in a way we're maybe going back to the kind of media we had, at least in some sense, or the kind of concept we'd have of, say, 150 years ago, where opinions and facts were all the same, and that was what the media did, and that's how you learned about the issues through somebody's opinion.
Your first job out of college was working as a photojournalist in the Fargo Forum, and you've since had your photos published in international newspapers and displayed in juried exhibits. What draws you to photography, and how has the role of the photojournalist changed since the dawn of digital photography?
Yeah, I'm kind of a visual person, and so I got my first camera when I was about 8 or 9, and I just loved going out and taking pictures and coming back and seeing this magic thing appear in a dark room. You put this piece of paper in there and it was completely white, and then the image would come up, and that was kind of an amazing thing for me. And so I thought this was sort of a fascinating thing to go into. And I ended up doing it as a career for only a fairly short time. And I had many friends who are still in the photography business, have been now for 40 years. And while it's a fantastic hobby, and today is kind of, I think it's a new golden age of photography. Everybody's taking pictures nowadays. There's more pictures, I read this statistic, more pictures taken in 2 minutes in the world today than were taken in the first 100 years of photography, which shows how many people are taking pictures out there around the world. And so you have this golden age, and people are very excited about it. And I think you can do more, and you can take pictures in places you couldn't before. So it's become a fun thing for people to do. It's a hard thing to make a living at, and it's becoming harder. We only see one half of the professional photojournalists today that we saw 10 years ago. There's been a lot of layoffs in photojournalism. Those people in photojournalism who are still working are expected to do a lot more. Most of them are expected to do video as well as still photography. And so, what's the future for the industry professionally? I don't know. It's great if you're a hobbyist. It's fun. If you want to do it on your own, there's a lot of opportunity. As a profession, I think it's tough. And so I'm kind of happy I didn't stay in it, even though I kind of miss it as a profession. I have an academic area, research area, but then practically my background is in photography. And so I started out in photojournalism. I worked for the newspaper here, the Forum, and then I was a freelance photojournalist for about 3 years. It was a tough way to make a living, by the way. It was fun. And then I've taught photography. I taught at UND for a while, and then I taught here. And I've tried to do photography for kind of exhibits and shows around, and I've sent photography away to various shows. But it's kind of a hobby or an avocation. Although, because I do teach it, I have to keep up with photojournalism and photography has changed dramatically in the last 10 years or so. And the sad thing about it is that you used to spend years trying to learn how to be proficient at a darkroom work, this chemical-based photography. And it wasn't easy to learn. I had to do everything in the dark, for one thing. And now it's like that's all obsolete. All that knowledge is obsolete. No, you don't need it anymore. Except that maybe not, because I have a lot of students who ask me to teach a darkroom-based class. They say, I'd really like to do the old darkroom methods. Can't we try that? And I say, yeah, except that where are we going to find a darkroom? There's no darkrooms anymore. They closed them all. They sold all the equipment. And so I'm still looking around for a darkroom so I can maybe try some of the old techniques, and some students are still interested. Some students still interested in old LP records. Some students are still interested in the old methods of, film-based photography. So it's not quite dead, but, it's as far as mass media is concerned, it's dead. I mean, they're not going to do that. Anything that's in the mass media business, if it's cheaper, they're going to move to it. And digital photography was much cheaper than film-based photography, so it was a very quick move as far as the journalism was concerned.